Welcome to the ARC Hive Podcast, where we explore the arcs of our individual journeys and the strength of the hive that holds us together. I'm Amy Rost, and I believe that life isn't meant to be navigated alone. Here, we dive into conversations that bring us closer to ourselves, to each other, and to our communities that lift us up. This is a space for real stories, honest reflections, meaningful connections. Whether you're in a season of transition, seeking deeper relationships, or simply craving conversations that inspire growth, this hive is for you. And because when we come together, we grow stronger. Welcome to the ARC Hive Podcast. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here today, and I've got a very special guest that I'm so excited to dive into this conversation with. Welcome, Sue Steers, to the podcast. Hey, Sue.
Hi, it's so nice to see you again.
So good to see you again. And Sue is, I would say, Pilates integrative movement specialist, we could call you, educator, host. You've got so many titles. You do lots of things kind of like me.
Well, I think that's part of the package, right? Once you start digging in and when you want to share the power of the work that you do,
Yeah.
oftentimes you end up in places you might not have anticipated when you started out.
And like, just take that in for a moment, everyone. Like, I really feel like that is a permission slip. There is not one way, right? And you're located in North Vancouver,
That's true. Yes.
and your studio there is Moving Spirit.
Moving Spirit Pilates. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we connected. So we've
Mm.
actually never met in person. We have connected first on social media, and then we've had a couple of calls and chatted, but we met through Pilates Fest North um, when we were doing the pop-up back in 2024 in Kamloops, and you nominated one of your teachers for our scholarship.
Hmm. That
Yeah.
was that was an exciting time. I was unfortunately there was a bunch of stuff going on when that Pilates Fest North event showed up, and I was already committed, so I couldn't do it. But I saw that you had this beautiful scholarship you were offering, and I had just started recently working with Katya Skripchenko, and I thought she would be a beautiful candidate for your scholarship. And my her story is hers to tell, but I was so grateful that you had an opportunity like this, and it was really wonderful to be able to not just welcome her to the community in North Vancouver and sort of bring her in and help show her around what was happening in North Van, but then also to be able to have an opportunity to go to Pilates Fest North and meet all these incredible teachers. And I think it just warmed my heart. And so thank you for opening that door.
Well, you just never know where connections are going to be made. And Katya was a wonderful recipient of that scholarship, and she, really she got to be known on the national stage very quickly. But I love how that sort of, really ties into the theme of this podcast, which is very much my core values in what I do as a Pilates teacher or an event planner, what all the titles. But you just never know where these beautiful connections will be made. And when you, I think, have those opportunities to hear other people's stories, that it creates even a deeper connection and a more meaningful connection along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Pilates in itself, with its nature around connecting systems to systems and that kind of thing, you're already thinking about that in your body. And when you're working with teachers or working with clients, you're really looking to see where those things work well and where they go offline. And when it all happens like a beautiful orchestra hitting all the right notes, there are really amazing things that can happen. And I think when you bring that into community, it's just it's special, it's meaningful, it's powerful.
Mm.
um yeah,
It
it's
fills
good.
up It fills our cups.
Totally.
So let's dive in. Let's kick it off by, this is a question I like to ask. This is a question that sometimes stumps people, but can you share a moment in your journey when someone made you feel truly seen or supported in your movement path?
I think I would have to say, I don't know that it's one person. I would have to say there are three people that come to mind when I think
Right?
about this, and they're among my early Pilates teachers, and they're now colleagues and friends and very special people. Um, so I will name them: Cindy Varney, Amy Chiara Ruth, and Sandy Acton. And they were among my first Pilates teachers here in Vancouver. And I had come in kind of with injuries and things from some history in dance, and I was looking for healing. I was looking for, how do I move around and not have this wicked pain in my knees all the time? I was going to move regardless, but is there a way I could do this differently?
Yeah.
And I think they shared with me a way of being in my body and working with my body that was not always punishing, that was not always bullying, that was not always, it was recognizing where the strengths are. It was backing off when I was pushing too hard, looking at a different way of approaching it. And I learned to be myself in my own body, which was pretty cool.
I love that. What a gift.
Yeah.
Right. And
It,
I think so many people do come to Pilates for healing, whether they actually actively recognize that in the moment,
true.
but there are many healing properties in the method. And I think it also, when you have those teachers, the impact of the movement is so much deeper than
Mhm.
just exercise
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so far beyond it. And I find I still, we're still in contact and connect with each other. And they are people I trust. If I have a question, if I have a problem, I will run it by them first.
And that is also so true as a Pilates teacher. No matter how long you've been teaching,
Mm,
you need to have those people those mentors or colleagues that you can go to and be like, okay, I always say, I have way more questions the further out I get from teacher training than I did. I'm like, why is that happening? Right? And I think, we don't know it all, and we are never going to know it all because bodies are so complex, beautiful. We all have different journeys that got us to there, but having those resources, and I love
mhm.
that, you still call them to this day. I do the same thing. I'm like, why is this happening?
Well, it's funny. On the other side of things, sometimes you hear back from people that you've taught. And
Right.
I had the opportunity last summer to spend some time with some folks that had been dance students and Pilates of students of mine. Um, this young woman had gone on to do her advanced Pilates, advanced ballet teacher training, and then had done her first level of Pilates teacher training, and was just chasing the certifications, and she was very physically competent, could do all the things. And she said to me last summer, which is several years after she's done all this, that I had said something to her that she found really meaningful but didn't get it until later. And what she said was, you had told me to just slow down on the certifications, to be in the movement for a while, to learn in your body what you learned in the getting of the certificate, to work with the clients, to be with the people, to be in your body. And then if you wanted to do more, then you go and do more. But rather than lining up a series of certifications and ticking off the boxes, be there. And it was really, I didn't remember saying this to her, but it was really gratifying that she had found it meaningful, maybe not in the moment, but a
Yeah.
few years later, she got it. And
Yeah.
she thanked me for having said that to her. And I thought, Oh, that's very cool. I'm glad I said that.
We say the same thing to our teacher trainers. Learn
Yeah,
it, go explore it and embody it.
yeah,
Don't sign up for the next thing. You've got to you got to experience it.
yeah. Don't chase it. It's
No,
going to find you.
yes. And never stop learning. That I'm not saying never stop
I
learning,
agree.
but you got to kind of like get clear on what you've learned so that you can apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's dive a little bit, Sue, into your sort of your arc, your journey. So how long have you been in Vancouver?
How long have I been teaching since 1997?
Wow.
A few
Okay.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, a few years. And so that transition, were you dancing when you came to Vancouver still?
I was, yeah, I was sort of on the decline as far as that was. When I moved to Vancouver, it was sort of a shift in gears. I had been living and working in Montreal and in Toronto and in Ottawa and sort of in that area. Um, and just, I don't know, it was like, this is really hard. And I was in pain all the time. And, you don't make a lot of money. I was a modern dancer, and not that I was looking to make an empire or anything, but it was really hard to make a living.
Right.
And I just had a lot of questions. And I thought, I'm going to change it up. And I moved to the West Coast. And the only person I knew here at the time was my brother, who lived up in Whistler at the time. And so it was a brand new start. I, you know, I did some dancing while I was here. But again, it wasn't giving me what it used to, and I needed a change. And initially, I had sought Pilates in Vancouver. I'd heard about a studio here while I was dancing in Montreal, and sought sought the teacher out and sought the studio out and found these wonderful teachers. And at that point, it was going to be the thing I was doing in between things while I figured out what was going to be after the dance career. It was just going to be a little stopgap in between.
Uh-huh. And how was that small gap?
how many years are we now? Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a while. And it quickly became, I saw the power. I did a lot of work in my early sort of apprenticeship it was with Diane Miller at the Diane Miller Pilates Center in Vancouver. I did a bunch of work with folks who'd had severe injuries, and watching someone like Diane kind of figure out beyond the protocol. This is the exercise that you might do for X, and watching her sort of critically look at what's happening in a body and observing where the discrepancies are and where are the contradictions in the body, and just looking at how a body moves in such great detail. I had been fascinated with that. I had a dance teacher in Montreal, Linda Rabin, who was amazing at that. And I'd been fascinated by it, but sort of thought that was a magic thing that she could do. And recognizing that it was a skill I could learn, and that learning how to observe and how to be present with a body, and then think about the best ways to bring forth all the good things that body could do and that person could do. I say body, but that's the whole person.
The whole person. And there are, when you really get to experience a teacher who sees beyond even what, just those fine little details, those little nuances of a body, and then you see how they sort of deconstruct the movement, and then they would, apply the Pilates method to that body in front of them. I think that is, to get to experience those teachers, I really, seek them out, because you learn so much from just watching them.
Yeah. And trying to see why did they make that choice? Where did that come from? And recognizing that they're seeing something that maybe you didn't see. And what am I not looking for? What did I miss there? It's pretty fascinating.
So your curiosity of Pilates, then in your little short break there, converted to like, I'm gonna now like teach this? I'm gonna like go all in? How fast did that happen?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I held on to some aspect of I'm still going to dance for quite a few years. But then I had my son, and, things got busy with a young child at home. Um, and then I opened my first studio was in my basement in my house. And that's where I started. And I really enjoyed the work. And there were a few years where I was testing out, would I go back to school and finish this or do that? And I thought, no, I'm doing what I want to be doing. So it, 1997, I had the studio in my basement. And then in 2002, we renovated our garage and turned that into my studio space. And I
This
was
is the
there.
studio. This is really a
Yes,
production of a Pilates studio, everyone. It starts in the basement, then it
it
becomes
starts in the basement.
to build a barn or something.
Yeah, right. It's so true. And then, collaborating with community members. I have some fabulous healthcare practitioners in the area that were kind enough to refer to me, and we built relationships over the years. Um, and then I guess it was 2015, I opened the studio, uh, our current studio, and have some amazing people working with me. And so, always learning along the way. For a while, I mean, it's always thus. Pilates is a little more formally accepted now, but back in the day, it was still kind of, oh, those people who do Pilates, they're a little fringy. And so I dove into a lot of work with local physios and did some training and with physios, with osteopaths and things to sort of learn what was going on in the body in a different way so that I could legitimize, for lack of a better word, a way of explaining scientifically what was happening when I was doing these things.
Oh, I love that because I think, when we're really open to the different lenses of the different practitioners, like you really start, you really can see how there's pieces of all of it.
Hmm.
Like they go so well with the Pilates method.
Yeah.
I think that like curiosity has really served you well.
It's true. It's true. I'm a curious person. I like to know why things work and why things happen. But I also like to know what makes people tick. And I think that's really one of the most fun things. Every day is a puzzle in the Pilates studio with whoever you're working with. And when you recognize it's not just a physical puzzle, but there's other things at play, and you get to know the people and what's driving what's going on with them. And
Yeah,
it's a really fascinating and fulfilling kind of work.
I agree. I agree. So let's shift a little bit and chat about sort of the hive or the community and the connections that you've built within having your studio. How many teachers do you have in your studio?
Right now we have three. I mean, and me. So we're not a big grand studio. But what I love about it is that each one of my teachers has lots and lots of experience and training in the Pilates method with various elders along the way, and has a really good comprehensive background. But they also have their own individual specialties. And so we learn from each other. And it's really fun. You know how when you're working with people in a room, you hear, oh, wow, that's a really good cue. I love how you did that. And
Yes,
those ways of working with the body they're unique to each person. And that is one of my favorite things about working with this team, is that they have their own specialties, their own knowledge and information, and I'm learning from them as much as the clients are. It's pretty cool.
and in creating that um that community, because I always say, like, it starts with our teachers and then our clients, and our community actually goes beyond that to who our clients go back and interact with in the real world after their Pilates sessions. But in that core community of your teachers, what are some really important things you do to nurture them?
That's a good question. I think my hope is that I am providing opportunities that they can expand their own expression of movement. I think about Alison Burt. She does a lot of work with the Franklin method. And I invite her to bring that into the studio in every possible way she can. And she's doing her own Franklin method workshops that obviously link really well with the Pilates method in a lot of ways. So clients are learning not just the Pilates method, but also the Franklin method. And so that's been interesting to watch her grow her skills in presenting that material in various ways. I mean, in the pandemic, we were doing it on video, and it's
Did a lot on video.
so we did a lot on video, didn't we? Yeah. And Sarah Moore, who does a lot of Eldoa, which is a lot about the fascial extending work. And again, it's stuff that complements Pilates really well. She has a beautiful way of bringing it together with Pilates, and to see people responding, because obviously people respond to different people and different ways in. And so it's lovely to be able to bring those things forward and allow them to shine in their own way, and to watch them grow inside of that.
And I think it's such a gift for you to be able to give them that space to develop as individual teachers, and because no two of us are the same. And we don't want, I always say, we don't need another Amy. There's one.
No.
You get do you, like, and that's what attracts different clients to different people. And even, and I always say to my clients, please take another class from some other teacher. I don't want you just to hear me all the time, because they're going to say something and you're going to be like, oh, that's what she's been asking me to do for the last 6 years. And you got it because you just heard it in a different way. It resonated and it landed. And I think it really is, that team that really creates an environment for growth in movement, in life, in all things, and its expansion in all ways, really.
Yeah. And that was one of my goals, when I realized that I was actually running a business and not just doing this little Pilates thing, I decided I wanted to be really intentional with it. And I wrote out my whole mission and values and all of that. And part of that was to create opportunities for mutual expansion for me as a business owner, for my staff, for my clients, and for anybody who we collaborate with. And I meant that not just in terms of physical movement, but in every possible way we can learn from each other, expand, and grow. And I keep that's what drives any of the connections that I make is really that.
And I think, I do some business coaching as well. And I actually get teachers to do this, no matter if they're just starting or they've been in business a while, is to really get clear on your intention and your why. Because those core values show, when you are working in your core values, the alignment of the relationships, the clients that come into your studio or your business are exactly who your ideal client is. And it's a step is not often taught in Pilates schools. And it's a step that I think is so important and integral into actually creating that business that really you love. And then at the end of the day is sustainable and thrives.
Yeah. We had a team retreat at the end of December. We went over to Bowen Island and did a little retreat over there. And we did a values exercise among the teachers, and sort of played with what is most important. And it was amazing to see how aligned we were in so many different ways, but also the little places where it was a little bit different. And when you feel that, it's much easier to move forward as a team in supporting the goals of the business and also the individual goals. It's easier for me to know how to support my team when I know what they need.
Oh, that's such a beautiful way to run a business. And I think, that resonates far beyond the walls of a studio, far
I
beyond.
hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about, so we've talked about like your community of teachers. What is like, describe a little bit of what the community is like within your studio. What's the atmosphere? What does that mean to you? Or what, looking from the outside in, what do you see?
I think we have a lovely community at the studio. We have still some people that have been with me from my basement. So there are people that have been with me, through childbirth, through, young
All the
kids,
things.
old kid menopause, they've been
Oh,
with me for a while.
yeah.
Um, and it's always been, we have a very client-centered approach. And in some ways, it's a little bit like the old school contrology, not quite open gym, but we've worked to build programs, individual programs for each person. And a class is 4 or 5 people working through a program, and we're guiding them, adding progressions, moving through things a little bit differently, cueing form, that kind of thing. So everybody's working on their own thing in the context of a class. And what I love about that is that there's no competition. Everybody's working on their own thing. People get to know each other. So we've got a group, you can move around to different classes. You don't have to be at the same time. People have been working together. We don't have sort of a drop-in culture. It's a class. People are there for some period of time, and they get to know each other. They get to know what's important in their lives, and they chat to each other, and they care. Oh, where's so-and-so? They haven't been here in a little while. What's going on? There's a genuine care and concern. They trade recipes.
I love it.
It's really cool to watch. Yeah, I love that there is care and concern and a sharing of victories and a sharing of trials and tribulations. Life throws things people's way, and there is support in our community for those things.
I always say in my studio is they come for the Pilates and they stay for the community. Like
I
they're
think
making
that's true.
coffee dates, they're sending each other memes, they're checking in with each other, or they're having the conversation after class, like in my driveway, right?
Yeah,
Like it is so when we say body, mind, and spirit, these are all those other elements beyond the movement.
absolutely. Absolutely. And they last. Even after they go and move on to other things, a lot of those connections remain. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Pilates friends are really the best.
I would agree. I would agree.
So as we look at, all the layers of community, let's go a little broader. I do hold a national conference. What
Yes.
do you see what do you feel the state of the industry is in Canada today?
I think it's better than it has been in a long time. And I think thanks largely to things like what you're doing. Um, I'll be quite honest. For a long time, I wanted to distance myself from the Pilates community. There was so much infighting. There was so much in the early days. There was so much controversy and lawsuits and all the things going on. And I just thought, I don't want to have to fight to be here. So I'll do my thing over here in the corner, and all y'all can do whatever you want. And that is honestly how I felt for quite a while. And it's been really heartening to see people coming together from different streams of Pilates, different lineages, different ways of being in their Pilates journey, coming together and sharing experiences. And particularly in Canada, and probably particularly at this time in the world, it is really heartening to see those connections being made, not just locally, but you and I having a conversation across provinces. And I know you have much larger, a much larger view.
What's going on the East Coast?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But to be able to now feel like there is a community I want to plug into,
Oh,
where
yes.
for a long time I didn't want any part of it.
Yeah. And that's really part of where Pilates Fest North came from was, when I first completed my teacher training, coming from corporate, and I got into this industry, and I learned really quickly, like, I couldn't refer a client to the studio down the road. And I thought, what? This is crazy. Like, I know like their skill set is better to handle this. Like, this is where this client should be. And they were like, no, you can't refer. And I thought, wow, if we can't refer and interact and support one another, what is going to be left of this industry? I came from working in a multidisciplinary clinic where, like, everybody touched a patient sometimes. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, isn't that how we need to serve our clients, is in that really like taking care of them. And like, my lane is different than other people's lanes. Even in
Mm-hmm.
Pilates, my lane is different. And that's really where I was like, no, we need to be able to sit down and learn from each other and listen to each other. And that's where we're actually going to start to shift some of this dialogue, because it wasn't happening when we were traveling to the US.
No,
There's
no,
luck
it wasn't.
You're lucky if there was another Canadian even in the room.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I think if you look at it in a client-centered way, if the person in front of you is the important thing, it changes how you work with them. If it's my method, then that's a whole other way of being. And I'm not Joe Pilates. I can't teach Joe. I can teach what I have learned from the people I have learned it from.
Right.
And I will add my own special sauce to the mix. But the important, in my view, the important thing is the people that I'm working with. And that is more important than anything else. And if that means I'm referring to you or to someone down the street because they're going to get the best results there, then that's
Yes.
what I got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could leave our listeners with one sort of final message, and maybe like about trusting their bodies and finding freedom in movement, what would it be?
I think I would say take the time to listen. If you're not used to listening to your body, if you're not used to paying attention to its signals, it might at first feel like it's not telling you anything. It takes a little while to develop the attention and the skill to pay attention in that particular way. But once you start to find that path, then truly everything you need is within you.
Oh, that's incredible. Sue, how can people find you?
Well, our website is movingspirit.ca. We're in North Vancouver. So if you're local to North Vancouver, give us a shout. I am also on the Heart of Motion podcast. Every couple of weeks,
Beautiful
there's a new
podcast.
episode. Yes.
Beautiful podcast.
And those are probably the best ways. Instagram and Facebook, the Moving Spirit. You can find us there. LinkedIn as well. Happy to connect anytime.
And we'll include all of those in our show notes as well. And I just want to, just for our listeners to just take a moment, and if you have a journal available to you, or you just want to ponder this a little bit, maybe just take a moment and ask yourself, where in your life can you reconnect to your body and entrust its wisdom? And I think it's a really powerful question that I think all of us need to remind ourselves. So I'm going to give it to you again. Where in your life can you reconnect to your body and trust its wisdom? Because you might just be surprised by what it tells you. So, and please, if your takeaways, please share them. You can tag this podcast. We love to hear your feedback or your thoughts, because again, I think there's just so much power from hearing each other's stories and learning from one another. So thank you so much, Sue, for being on the podcast. Thank you for listening to the ARC Hive podcast today. I hope this episode left you feeling inspired, connected, and reminded that you are never alone on this journey. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts, share your takeaways, tag us on social media, and let's keep this hive buzzing. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and invite someone to join us. And until next time, keep honoring your arc, leaning into the hive, and showing up for yourself and your community, because we are stronger together. This is the ARC Hive Podcast, and we'll see you soon.